Picked up this little thing on the side of the road a long time ago. It's been over here in the rain for a long time, but it still works. And I thought I had found like an antique jewel, but no, they still sell these things. They're like $100. It's missing this back roller, and I got a couple mornings to kill, so I'm gonna try to make one. Got this pipe that I bought for the T-top of the center console that was decided was too big, but I think it'll be about right for this project. And I got a couple of brand new bearings, but the hole in the middle is kind of big, so I think I'm gonna use these. I have a pair of used bearings for this low speed operation. That ought to be fine. I'll just have to make a bushing for the ends, make some sort of bracket. That's how you adjust the height of the cut, is how high or down low this roller is. Will give me an excuse to try to make something with the lathe I bought 2 years ago that I've never used. So cut this to length so I can get the rest of it out of here and find something to turn the bushings with. Okay, step one was to cut this roughly the length. It's a couple inches long. Just wanted to get that big piece out of here. Step two, I traced the outside diameter plus a little bit on a piece of 1-inch aluminum. I'm gonna drill 2 center holes. That one doesn't look centered. I need to double check it. And then I'll roughly cut the exterior. Probably use a skill saw. And then I'll put a bolt through the center hole and put it on the lathe and spin the outside until the OD is the same as this. And then I'll cut a, I don't know what you call a circular rabbet, so it'll fit inside the pipe. And then I can grab the outside with the lathe chuck and bore the inside to fit the bearing. So that's the plan anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and recheck these center marks and drill the holes for the middle. So I got my aluminum plugs cut. It looks like my hole wandered way off, so I hope I'm not too far off. Anyway, but I have this stainless steel fine thread stud, and I got a nut on each side, and I got it clamped really tight. So I'm gonna put this in the vise, in the chuck, and turn it on slow, and go ahead and use one of these in years and years. So let me turn the camera off. So I'm doing this wrong. I'm using the handle that controls the forward and reverse of the feed screw to engage and disengage the carriage, and I should be using the little knob that's on the carriage. I figured this out a little bit later. Like I say, I haven't used this thing just a little bitty bit since I took it apart and cleaned it up and put it back together. So it's a learning experience for me. And aluminum is a good material to learn on because it's very forgiving. Pretty cool. I think that's the way it's supposed to work. little. I got the right angle. Looks like it's standing down a little bit. I don't know. This is aluminum. I bet if this was steel, it'd be doing a lot more squalling. Okay, we got a long way to go because that hole's so far off center, so I'm going to turn you off for a while. This might be the last pass for the OD. And I think it's round now. I think I've got a clean outside diameter with no holes. So I overcut it. I knew I was going to do that. Whatever you turn this in, it cuts twice as much because it's cutting it on both sides, and I was kind of scared of that, but really it doesn't make that much difference. It just makes, yeah, so the little plug on the end is going to be a little bit smaller than the pipe, and that's okay. So now I need to cut a step in it so that this plug will fit inside the end of the pipe, which is what this is. And I really don't want this to be loose. If anything, I want it to be really, really tight. And theoretically, no, I can't turn a taper. So I'm just gonna have to watch myself when it gets close, because I can hammer this into the pipe. I don't want it to be loose. Okay, I'm gonna be the first to admit I don't know what I'm doing, but I loosened the cutting bit and it's on this little I don't know, curve deal, and I kicked it back up a little bit. I think it was kind of a negative cutting angle, which means it was just kind of dragging, and I'm trying to get it up steeper where it's actually cutting, but it's a little bit high. I think it's supposed to be cutting from the center. I think if I tilt it back a little, well, I'm gonna tilt it back a little bit more. When I tilted it back a little bit, I started getting whiskers instead of chips. Now I don't know if that's because it's totally round now and it's not hitting flat spots, or if it's just cutting better. But it was getting really, really hot. The piece was really hot, and it didn't seem like it should have been so hot. So anyway, I'm gonna kick it back a little bit more. And yeah, aluminum is very forgiving, so I'm not gonna break anything. So notice a couple of things here. When I stop the carriage, the lead screw on the bottom left is still turning. That's what it's supposed to do. And when I back up and cut backwards, or when I crank the carriage backwards, I'm still removing chips. It's not supposed to do that. That means something's flexing. So that's the disadvantage of these little home style engine lathes. They just don't have the rigidity of the big, huge ones and heavy duty ones. So you got to take really light cuts and be patient. So I'm getting some flex somewhere because I made 2 passes and I didn't touch anything, and the second pass was still cutting. So probably, I don't know, probably the cutting tool right here at the end. I was a real mechanic, I would just measure that and say, well, I need to cut 20 more thousandths, and this is double, so I'm going to turn this in 10 thousandths. But you can't read the numbers on here anymore, so it's kind of just, you just got to guess. Okay, we're going to call the first one done. I think we have a good friction fit. It's hard to tell because the thing's so hot. It might shrink. I don't know. I think we're going to be good. We'll put the other one on there and get it to this stage. I really don't want to touch this too much. Very good. Put the other one and do the same thing. All right, well, both of the bushings to this stage where they fit inside the pipe. Now I need to drill a hole in the middle bigger because it's the same diameter as the bearing, and you don't want the shaft to be rubbing. So I don't know if I'll do that with a drill bit or a cutting tool, and then I'll have to remove some material so the bearing will fit in there, and that's going to need to be very accurate as opposed to this aluminum on aluminum stuff. Yeah, buddy. Okay, let's chuck this up this a ways, chuck this up this a ways, and I'll face this flange, this face, to kind of get it straight, and then I'll either drill a hole or cut a hole. I'm not sure which one. Okay, I gotta put the phone down. Getting to use a drill bit I've never used before. Somebody gave me a bunch of these big taper shank bits. The feed screw on the tailstock that's pushing this drill bit in is real tight, so I'm only able to turn it a little bit with the palm of my hand and then reposition my hand. And that's why it looks like the bit is pulsating in and out. I'm not able to just grab that little wheel and rotate it. It's too tight. I need to put the old girl back into high speed. So get the pressure off the belt. What do we do with this? Pull this jack shaft so it doesn't connect, and then I need to reconnect this. I had put it in low range to drill that hole with that big old bit, and now it's time to put it back in high range, and I kind of forgot how to do it. But I figured it out, and later on I found I had to put a little mark on the sheave to make it easier. I had just forgotten. Well, it needs to go in a hole. It needs to go in a hole somewhere. But it's not going in a hole. There it is. So now these two gears are locked on the same shaft, and this one's out of the play. I'm gonna tighten the belt back up. And when I turn it on, it'll go fast again instead of slow like it was when we were drilling. All right. So I changed this a little bit to cut on the inside face. I think it'll work. This is my $15 set of cutting tools, so it can't be too good. But the other one did all right on aluminum. So I want to go in there, the depth of the bearing, no more. It's working okay. I just need to stop cutting at the right time. I need to get gloves because those little chips coming off are pretty hot. So my last little bitty microscopic cut, overcut it, it's loose. But it's very, very hot, so maybe when it cools down, it'll be all right. You know, it's gonna be all right anyway because this is just for fun. But yeah, this is cool. One more inside cut on the other one. I remembered this time. These two little notches I cut, that's to line up with that pin. There it goes. So we're back in high speed now. So I don't really know how the old roller was attached. I don't have any, only part left is a bolt. I can't find any pictures on the internet, so I'm taking this angle and I'm cutting it this long and this wide and this wide, and I'll be able to bolt it here. I'll have a flange and I'll go from there. Not sure what I'll do after that. This is a 7-inch grinder. I've always found it a little intimidating to work with. It's pretty powerful and it's heavy. It makes a ferocious amount of noise, but man, it cuts steel like 3 times quicker than the low grinder. So I use it just a little bit on edge when I'm using it. So I found an axle. It's just 5/8 hot rolled steel. It's not much. It was kind of beat up, but I was able to sand it enough to be able to get the bearing on there. So I think what I'm going to do is put this like this. Cut out a half this so it'd be flat, and drill it and bolt it. I was thinking about welding it, but then you couldn't get it apart, and I'd probably burn the bearing welding it. So yeah, I'm gonna cut it to the right length. I'm gonna cut a half lap on each end and put it together and measure between here and the other side, and then cut my aluminum tube and put it together, and it'll just be a bolted connection. I think that'll work. So I use this to get a straight line down the axle. That's his black line, so that my two cutouts would be parallel. I got my mark here, and the big grinder made quick work of slicing out the extra. I got a center punch. I'm gonna go drill a 1/4-inch hole in the drill press on each end, and then I think I'll go ahead and drill holes, mount this bracket and get it tight, and then drill through here with a number 7 bit and thread this part. So maybe thread it and then put a backup bolt, or maybe just thread it. Should stay. All right, so I decided to drill and tap this for this bolt, just because there's not enough room to get a nut back there. I'm also going to drill and tap this. So I held it up, marked it with the Sharpie. I got little bitty center punches, so I'm going to take them off and go drill them and tap them. Then we can put the axle on with the bearing caps. And then I'll measure between the bearing caps to get a length of my tube. And I'll cut it with the miter saw. So I should be able to get a good square cut with the miter saw. Now this is something I've never been able to do before. Turn the inside of a washer to make it fit the shaft. And it was really easy. I just choked it in there and made a couple passes. And now it'll fit over the shaft. Sweet. All right, so with everything in place, I got a washer and then my piece that I turned. It looks like between the two shoulders is 14 5/8. So I'm gonna cut my aluminum tube 14 5/8 with a miter saw. It should come out square. So the end caps turned out to be very, very tight in the pipe, which was a good thing because the beating on them to get them in place kind of, I guess, deformed the aluminum a little bit. So now the bearings got tight too. So instead of having loose bearings, I got snug bearings. And the end caps obviously are very snug. You can see me wailing away on them to try to get them in the pipe. Snugger than I thought they'd be. So the dang little thing worked. It worked pretty good. So I put it on Facebook Marketplace, asked 100. Sold it for $65 to a lady who had 3 boys. The husband wanted them to start cutting grass, and she was scared of mowers, so they compromised. And I'm kind of curious how this is going to work out. But anyway, I made like $4 an hour, and I don't know, maybe I can make it up in volume. Thanks for watching.